Welcome to Liberated. My name is Margaret Graziano, and I'm your host. And today we're interviewing Dr. Abraham Khoureis. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about you and what you do in this world.
Thank you so much for having me, Margaret. As you said, I'm Abraham Khoureis. I am in different, they call me multi-talented for a reason. So many things. I am an adjunct professor. I teach MBA classes. I have a few businesses in the city of Los Angeles. I do classes, seminars, workshops, anything to do with leadership. We have an initiative in improving capitalism. I'm heading that. I have very passion toward advocating for disabled individuals. I have a theory out there, a model theory, learning model theory, how to improve people with disability within the workforce, plus online. It was a pioneered approach where you provide access to individuals with disability online. Of course, the compassionate leadership. I have a show. I host the Who is in Who Leadership in Politics with Dr. Abraham. I have a symposium where I bring thought leaders, the top of the line, and they present their own insights on what is happening in the industry.
Great. Okay, so I want to ask a couple questions. So you are a very accomplished man. You've got lots going on. Where do you teach? You said you're an adjunct professor. Where at?
I'm teaching at the University of Redlands here in California. I've been teaching with them since several years back now.
Thank you.
I teach MBA classes plus leading teams and individuals.
And tell me about this initiative for capitalism. What is that about? What does it mean? What is the name of it? People that are listening to this podcast are interested in a new way to work. They're interested in innovation. They're interested in optimizing the human potential so that they can be part of the solutions to workplace and even life challenges. So what is this capitalist? What is the capitalism, new approach to capitalism you have?
Well, I have written several articles. I published those in Forbes. People are invited to just search my last name and they will have access. I will also send you the article. It has more details. 2 articles, and specifically to revamp capitalism. We love the system. We think it's a good system, but we can improve it. We improve it how? By adding a human element to it. Well, this is where the compassionate leadership model come into play. And as you know, I have the pyramid, which states it has 7 levels. So the initiatives is to improve the capitalist mind, the capitalist individual, to think not only in his mind, but also in his heart. Because capitalist individual, when he goes to any society, whether it's local or international, things happen. The minute they cross the border, they break all the laws they can. Here they can't because there are laws, they put them in place. But when they go outside, something different. They become a different individual or a corporation or entity. So what we're saying is, let's put it all the way. Let's add a humanity to it. This is where the compassionate leadership comes into play. And if you like me, I can talk about that as well.
It sounds like a little bit of conscious capitalism. And how is it different than and I don't want to put you on the spot if you're not sure what conscious capitalism is.
Oh, no, I'm very aware of it. Mine is different. I mean, you're dealing with an individual that has been in different worlds and have an understanding of what's happening. The reason I'm presenting this and trying to advocate for it is because I know the consequences. This is a call to action. Compassionate leadership is not just to be nice. We're not saying be nice, which is good, because if you're good as a leader, as a manager, you change the organization, you change the individuals, you change the performance, which we understand that. What we're saying here, the revamping of, is we're saying, let's change or work within the status quo to improve it. Because if you maintain it, it's rotten from within. It's going to collapse. Let's maintain it because the system is a good system. Just work on it. It's a call to action from within.
So if you're calling me to action, what are you calling me to action to do?
To improve the status quo of everybody, the leadership, employees, customers, from in out, from out in, just to improve, to be instead of competing with another company, collaborate. This is an emerging trend. We're not saying everybody's going to adopt it. Some people, and we have a research to back it up. I'll share with you the numbers. Some 18%, they don't care. 18% they say we want to stay with what we have. These people that, let's say, homeless in LA, they say these people deserve it. They don't say we have to care for them. So it is different because it gives you a plan. The pyramid, I share that with you whenever you want to share it with your audience. That will be as well good. It has 7 levels, as you know. The levels start with self-compassion. We're not saying become an instrument of helping others while ignoring yourself. Do not ignore yourself. Be the best you can be. Become the richer you can be. But do it for one purpose mindset. Do it for the purpose of helping others as you help yourself. And then you
So I want to hear about the 7 levels, but am I just oversimplifying by saying this is what in my world we would call conscious leadership?
It adds on. It adds on to what's available out there. But
so it's in the realm of being awake and aware and knowing that your life is for something, and how are you going to be the best you can be at work and in the community? Yeah.
You mentioned a key word, which is aware. Self-awareness and being mindful is the core of it. At any level you're in, you really have to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
When we say being mindful, what's mindfulness? Is being present. You scan the environment you're in, you assess it, and you behave accordingly. So when you're being mindful in any level of these levels, you become a leader. See, when you say compassionate leadership, and you mention any type of compassionate leadership, yes, whether it's servant leadership, any type, transactional, transformational.
All right, so give me
anyone, it's within the scope of that.
Yeah, leadership from the inside out. In my book, Ignite Culture, the whole first 4 chapters are all about you have to tune in. Who are you? What's important to you? And then you lead from that grounded place. You can't lead culture. You can't lead people to be innovative, to be creative if you yourself are already not doing the work. But I want to know now the 7 levels of compassionate leadership, because I think our audience would be very curious about that. And tell us what they are.
Okay, absolutely. There's 7 levels. They start there. Mind you, they're based on being mindful. So there is not like one better than the other. Right. If you feel that you needed to take care of yourself and you are in the top, let's say in the society level, you go down to the self-compassion. So it starts with self-compassion. Self-compassion is where you care for yourself and improve it to the best of your ability within your limited budget or means for one purpose. The key is one purpose. The purpose is to help others. You're not improving yourself to be selfish and me. We're transforming the mindset from the I to the we. This is where we go from the capital.
Again, goes back to my life has purpose, meaning I'm here to be a contribution, not to be a consumer. Yeah, good. So self-compassion.
Because we are at the end, we're one component, which we call the human beings. Yeah. And we are made of, I don't want to go religious on you or spiritual, but we are made of soul, as they call it, or energy, self, which is the learning component, in the body, which is the vehicle. So we all, whether male or female, we have the same components, and there are 3 of them. How we develop them as human beings will make us better, more contributing to society, or just an average person.
Yeah, it seems to me that maybe it's just the circles I hang out in, but it seems like mind, body, spirit. When I was, before I moved to California, I lived in Illinois, and I owned a recruiting firm, but I wanted to do work that was less transactional and more transformational. And I switched my career to organizational development and organizational culture and executive coaching. And but when I came to California because California was more open-minded than Illinois. Like I had a product called Conscious Hiring. So my question for you is, do you find, and then we'll go back to the 7 levels, more and more people are more interested in living a life awake and aware and being a contribution, or do you think we're far way off?
Well, absolutely. So we have, the research tells us, being good, helping others and serving others, and some compassion in their hearts and empathy and so on and so forth. But it is determined by the leader that is leading this path. Mm. If the leader is compassionate and believe in this, the ideals that we believe in, being compassionate and changing the status quo to the betterment of society, then these 70% of people, they will follow that leader. If that leader goes the other way, they'll follow that leader. We call these the masses. These people, although they care, however, they do care for themselves as well. They're mindful of what they need. If their livelihood will change, then they will change with the leader. Meaning they are not in it with commitment. They're in it to survive.
Yeah, right. Because people operate out of survival. So 70%.
70%.
So let's go back to your 7 levels. First one is self-compassion.
First, self-compassion. This is an individual, he or she, and I'll call them they. They will care for themselves for one purpose, to improve the life of others. Starts with self, from the I to the we. It's a mindset. It's being mindful and being aware. Now, you tell me, not everybody like this. We're saying get the best education. You don't have to stress it, but at least attempt. Because when you improve yourself, you're able to improve others.
Okay, what's the second one?
Next of kin. So when you improve yourself, you go to the next level. It's next of kin. Here where you care for your family, your elders, your neighbors, your siblings. You just care for individuals and improve them to make sure that they're also aware of what's happening in the environment you're in. And then we go to I call it community as well, the smaller community. This is where your local businesses, where you patronize those businesses, you improve them, you become an instrument of good to the community you're in. And we're not saying be the perfect individual, but at least be a responsible individual toward this specific community. And then you go to the organization. The organization, as you improve the lot of the leadership, you care. I emphasize this. You care for the shareholders. You tell them and communicate to them in a very sincere way. We care for your investment and we're going to make you multi-millions of dollars. We are the people who are making this. As we care for you, we want you to care for the employees. We want you to care for the community you're in, but also we want to care for the customer, the consumer. We're going to tell them, and we will tell them, we are going to include the product. It has benefit to you. It has value. We're going to introduce a product and services that brings you value.
What level is this right now? Are we at 5?
This is the 4th level. This is the 4th level. The 4th level. And then we go to the community at large. The community at large is where you can start acting in a corporate responsibility as an organization, where you start building clinics, hospitals, at least assist in, because your intention is to improve the society, and regardless of who are these individuals. And then you go to the society. The society is you become the individual that changes the leadership in a way, voting, being a responsible individual in the community plus the society on the national level. And if you want to be global, you can be global as well.
So it sounds like your formula is about if you want to be a contributor in life, if you say you want to make the world a better place, these are I know you said it's levels, but I almost look at it like concentric circles of where my influence is and what's the difference I can actually make by being here on the planet.
It doesn't matter what position you're in, you can contribute.
Yeah.
We made it in a levels because we can teach this with time to leaderships and individuals interested in whatever the key is, are they mindful enough to know where they're at? Do they care for themselves? Yes. Are they healthy enough? Okay. Then jump to the next level. Do you care for your mom? Do you take care of your mom? Do you about dad or neighbors? Are you really that compassionate to check on them and call them? See, it's these minute stuff will make you a better individual. Because when you become a compassionate leadership, what does it lead to? It leads to being a better human
It's
being.
actually, you're talking about like micro steps, like, oh, I care about my employees. I care about my family. I'm going to see how somebody's doing. I'm going to give them grace. Now, my question for you is, what's going on in many companies right now is the engagement's down.
Yes.
People are resigned, even though they're not quitting. They do this thing called quiet quitting.
Yeah.
Or they feel entitled. And for as many issues as companies are having with employees, there's issues with management too, because all people are people, right? People are people. But how do you compassionately take a stand? Like, I'm listening to Tim Ferriss's People. He's very direct and he doesn't tolerate any BS, but I actually find it very freeing because people know who he is and they know how to work with him, and he doesn't make time. He doesn't want to waste his time in life. He feels that he's got big work to do and it's not mutzing around with people at work that aren't getting their stuff done or aren't reliable or aren't dependable or show up at meetings. So how do you compassionately, and I think most of the people listening to this podcast have jobs, they work with people, they want to know, okay, how am I passionate? How am I compassionate and tell somebody that I have to lay them off? Or how am I compassionate and tell somebody, hey, this is the third time you've shown up unprepared for a meeting. I'm not going to meet with you anymore. Or how are you compassionate and tell somebody that they need to get better or they need to look for a different job? Because if there's anything most of my clients suffer with is accountability.
Exactly.
They are very nice people and they want to stay nice. And so they allow people to be their lowest self at work. And I don't think that's so compassionate. Okay. I think that's actually hurtful. So that's my rant. What do you have to say about it?
Perfectly fine. Actually, perfectly perfect. Compassionate leadership doesn't mean pity. It means changing the status quo from worse to better, and making it the best. If an individual within the organization is not committed and being truthful to who they are and to the commitment of the organization, the compassionate leadership approach doesn't say you can't fire them. What we're saying is, don't fire them. Retrain them. If they do not retrain and they not commit to the cause of the organization's objectives and perform accordingly, then you have to let them go. We're not naive. We do not create individuals that are naive leaders. It doesn't matter what level you're in. You have to be accountable. This is part.
Find a new job for them. Give them an opportunity to reform, but don't tolerate.
Exactly.
Retrain, right. But don't tolerate them not performing or not doing what they said they do.
Exactly. If you are conscious enough and you're self-aware and you're mindful, you have to respect the environment you're in.
Yeah.
Compassionate leadership creates an understanding to the environment you're in. When we talk about organization, mind you here, I teach organizational behavior on an MBA level, graduate level. The objective of the courses I teach is to change the mindset and behavior of the individuals to conform to the organization. What's an organization? Made up of people, individuals, teams, groups, for one common purpose: to achieve an objective. How do you achieve an objective? Through performance. How do you do the performance? Through behaviors. How do you change the behavior? I tell you. So when you want to change a behavior of individuals, you motivate them and you see what they need and what they lack. When you talked about quitting, right? Quiet quitting. It comes down to performance. How do you do performance? Through the behavior. The behavior would actually be modified, manipulated, or regulated through the leader. So this leader has to understand the process and how do you motivate these individuals to commit to the organization and be accountable. You motivate them accordingly within a certain, there are different types of motivations.
Yeah, I was going to say, because everything I know is you can't motivate another. You can inspire, but the motivation is intrinsic. So how do you recommend motivating?
They're intrinsic and extrinsic. There are two types. And motivate them is actually knowing, talk to them. What is it? What do you need? What are your needs? Meet their needs. And then you will have, we talked about quiet quitting. Why are they quiet quitting? Because there's no engagement. Leadership are not, from my leaders to probably everybody's leaders out there, they're not engaging. The minute you give them this power and you put them in a position of power, they change. They become a different person. They think that power corrupts unless you're grounded. Compassionate leadership will give you the understanding to be grounded, to make you humble, to lead with humility.
Yeah, I really like that. Power corrupts unless you're grounded.
Yes.
So this is really interesting. I have in my own life, I came out to California very, very clear why I was coming. I wanted to launch this software. I wanted to have the software make a big difference in how people hired. And I hooked up with this partner who was going to develop the software. Mm-hmm. And I didn't consciously evaluate him. I evaluated 3 different partners, and I felt could get us there faster. But I didn't vet his personality, his values, his beliefs, the past businesses that he funded and ran into the ground. And so I allowed myself to be corrupted as his partner because I didn't do my normal process. And in the end, he butchered the software that we were building. He fired my partner, who was a PhD in IO psychology. He stopped paying people. And all of these things, I was not in charge of.
Yeah,
I wasn't in charge of, but there was peripheral noise and my spidey senses were up. But they kept telling me, the board who I put in place, this is going to be worth millions. Just tolerate the BS. And when we sell it, you can take your money and ride off into sunset. And we never did that because I pulled the plug. But I'll tell you what, the journey and the inside out, pulling apart, what are my values? What does integrity mean? It was brutal. It was brutal for me to come home back to me. And I lost about $1 million in a year and a half of my life over it. But I could see, like in hindsight, I also got corrupted. I listened to what he said. I was listening to about the millions of dollars and not about, wait, in this moment, does this thing make sense? In this moment, in this moment, in this moment.
See what happened.
That happens at companies all the time.
But Maggie, you were mindful because you were aware of what's happening and you were accountable within. You probably didn't voice out that thing to him because you didn't have the influence. Power has influence. And when he was in that position, I don't know if he was the financer of that position.
Yeah, he was the guy going to get, he was the guy.
Okay, so probably you work within the authority.
And he knew how to make software. I didn't.
Okay. Do you know how to do softwares now?
No.
You never. Okay. For that one, I'm going to sag away for a few minutes. I would actually less than a few minutes. Recently, I knew the potential of softwares. I know the potential of AI. And I tell you this right now to you before anybody else. I went through a bootcamp program with San Diego University. I learned how to do softwares. I learned HTML, Java, and
you did that yourself?
Yeah, no, I went to schooling. Went schooling, yeah. So now I know how to do it because when I guide my clients, I always tell them do this because this is the future. But then I went to MIT, an online program, 8 courses for almost took too much time of I did data science, machine learning. So while I'm doing it myself and I was preaching to others to do it, I did it. It's an impressive thing that you do. And then you can hire any people and individuals to do whatever you want. And
Because you now know what it is.
You have the understanding. Yes,
Yeah.
you have the understanding. So no, it's what you weren't corrupted. You just worked within the environment, and you were within the 70% at that time.
But I look at myself as I allowed myself to.
No, because you're within the 70%.
So that justifies it?
Yeah. Well, I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying where the category you are in. So
yeah, how do you
bring
I was
out
nervous.
of that?
I had invested a lot of money and time. My son worked there, and I was scared.
How do you bring you out of the 70%, and how do you bring out these people out of the 70% to make them aware?
Well, how I left the 70% is I went to see a therapist.
Well,
and the therapist said, "You don't need therapy, honey. You need a lawsuit."
Well, true. I mean, the action of this individual is not the things we advocate for and emulate. We don't, and it is happening everywhere. So that's what we try to attempt. That's the status quo we're trying to change. Put them
now
in the
I
mind.
Understand it.
Put the mind in this individual. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable to your partners, not acceptable to your employees, not acceptable to the consumer, because at the end, there was no product or something of value to them.
All right, I'm going to ask you another question about conscientious. So do you know anything about cults?
Cults?
Yeah.
Well, we have experienced that. Yeah.
We live in a cult.
Yeah.
So I was part of a company for a long time, a volunteer, didn't get paid. And it was a company that did transformation, and they made a big difference for me. They helped me see that I was putting all my energy into my work and I had no other life. And so they made a big difference. And I started volunteering up to 20 hours a week. In the end, I was leading programs for them and said, and it took a person intervening in my life to say, dude, you are working for free. You are taking time out of your own life with your own family to give to this company. It's fishy. And so I stopped. All these years later, there's now this Netflix, or maybe someone else, but I watch it on Netflix. It's a documentary called The Vow. Now, I bring this up because they help people. Their technology was amazing, and I highly recommend you watch it, because it's the dark side of the personal development and the consciousness movement.
Yeah, exactly.
So they took all these people, I guess 75,000 people went through the program. They learned that they could overcome their thoughts and their beliefs, and they could really contribute. But then what the company did is they brainwashed them into thinking the only way they could do that was with them. And it gets even worse, because then the big guy at the top was corrupted and created a sex ring of very, very young women who were like, he was the master and they were his slave. This just happened in 2022. It's unbelievable that this, to me, it's unbelievable that this could happen. And as I was watching it, and as I'm listening to you, I was one of those skeptical people that said, I like what they're saying, but what are they trying to get from me? And I still volunteered for 8 years, 20 hours a week with them. And I saw people give their whole life to them, like vow their whole life. They missed 18 years of their children's life. And
what was their value system? Was your value system in line with your value system at the time, or you didn't know any better?
Well, it was, so here's the thing. They used the concentric circles, the first concentric circle, or the first circle, not concentric. Okay, so it was the first internal circle was the self, like being conscious, being awake, not being reactive. The second one was family. The third one was work, and the fourth one was community overall. Well, now they didn't brainwash anybody, but it's certainly, they had hundreds of people after they did this program say, I want to keep it. I want to keep it. I want to stay, and I want to volunteer. I think the value system was being a contribution, making the world a better place. That's how they pitched it. And then even at this Nexium, that the Vow documentary, which is pretty powerful, the guy who produced What the Bleep is the producer of this documentary. which was like early on conscious like awakening on TV. Anyway, they spin it as you are being a contribution to society.
Perfectly fine. These are buzzwords.
Yeah.
And you see it everywhere. You see it in organized religion. You see it within sects. The problem with cults, they take away your identity. One. The other issue, which I haven't really a quarrel with, it's they don't lead you to build a nation. They build their own unit, their own.
Okay, really good. That's really good. Stay there. That's really good.
Yeah, so that's what they do. When you become within a cult, or whether it's political cult or religious cult, social cult, or what you're describing, these individuals, they aim to serve society, but actually their intentions is to serve themselves.
How do you tell the difference?
You tell the difference by being aware, self-awareness. That's why I'm telling you, we don't build weak leaders. I don't have wusses within my folds. Everybody is aware. Everybody is clever. Everybody is not manipulator, but they know how to regulate the process because we give them tools to understand. We don't have weak leaders. We're not supposed to have weak leaders. I'm going to tell you that because when we reach the last level, which we didn't cover, after society, there's the servant leadership level, which is the peak. When I was doing my research, I looked at what's available out there. There was Abraham Maslow's pyramid,
yes,
which is based on needs. And there was this, the Giza, the one in Egypt, the Great Pyramid. I was saying, what's the purpose of this? And I start reading. And then I read, like, back in times when Moses was here, back in time, Moses came to a corrupt leader, which we have many corrupt leaders, but Pharaoh is the most corrupt leader at that time because he said, I'm your God. So Moses came and he said to them, there's a better person. This is a story I'm sharing with your audience. There's a better person you can follow. That we call him God and so on. And what is he? He's in the skies. He's in heaven. So Pharaoh came to his leaders. I'm not talking about that Giza pyramid, but a story in history. He said, build me a pyramid or build me something. I can reach the God of Moses because I want to fight the God of Moses with their limited belief system then. So they built that thing. Giza is not the one, but they built a pyramid and Pharaoh went to that peak. So it dawned on me. I said, as we climb these levels and we reach the top and we become the best we can be when we're serving others without anything in return, we have to expect. And this small, private, exclusive space, people are corrupt and like the pharaohs waiting for us to fail and not make you change the status quo.
So how do you not be cynical? Like I'm listening to you and I'm like, okay, well, if people at the top are corrupt, how do we ever help them to not be corrupt?
To actually change the system by not following them. Now, how do you take somebody's power from you? Is by actually not following them. I get exiting them. How do you somebody like you have a boss or a manager having an influence over an individual and they're stressing the hell out of them? Every time they go to work, this boss is mean. How do they change that? How do you get out of this power of influence of this individual? You exit. Now, you don't have any other alternatives. It's easy, Dr. Abe, to say exit. What's the alternatives? You go to human resources, you address it. There's grievances, there's laws, there's labor laws that will allow you to have an environment that is healthy and out of any hostile behaviors. If this individual doing this to you at this micro level, then you can address it. But the way you exit anybody's influence is, and you take away their power, is you exit their sphere, their environment. So when we tell leaders, okay, you're not going to be people think you're the most precious one because you're leading with compassion and empathy. No, you can't be that. Because when you reach that level, people are going to fight you. Nobody wants your position is to change the status quo from the I to the we. And you expect people to say, okay, that's okay with us? No, you're not. You're going to be fought all the way. So you be aware, you be strong, self-develop, and become a millionaire, become a billionaire, because you need to fight a fight that is equal when you reach that level. Have the best education, you become the best you can become for one purpose, serving others.
Okay, good. So tell me about your conference coming up at the end of the summer.
October 8, 2023. It's going to be on a Sunday this time. We are celebrating Peter Drucker, the legend Peter Drucker.
Awesome.
The myth, the man. We're going to talk about his legacy. Peter Drucker, for those who don't know, he is a management guru. He put a lot of theories out there. He is considered the authority really on a lot of the concepts of management. And in 1971, he established an MBA program, the first executive program in the nation. He established that at the Claremont Graduate University. That was the first MBA program. And after this, every school and university established that. So the nice thing about this, the good thing about this, the university president, Len Jassab, president of Claremont Graduate University, is going to come to the symposium and is going to tell us what happened in those 50 years.
Awesome.
That's really awesome.
And is it all day? Is it 8 hours?
It's only 2 hours. It's only 2 hours from
2 hours.
1 to 3.
And it's in LA. Is it a public event?
This is going to be a virtual. I do those every year, virtual. Now, let me tell you who else is on this symposium. We have several panelists. We have Ms. Krista Newkirk. She's the president of the University of Redlands. She's going to be part of it. She's going to talk about education. We have David Ulrich. He is the guru and leader in human resources. He is considered the father of human resources. We have Mr. Bruce Rosenstein. He is a leader to leader with, he's a managing editor of Leader to Leader. And of course, we have Karen Newletter, which she's a student of Peter Drucker, but in the same time, she's a researcher in her own right at this time. So it's going to be impressive.
It sounds great. So it's in October. So when this podcast comes out, we'll have a note. So, Dr.
I'll send you the link.
How do people reach you if they would like to follow you or reach out to you because they're interested in this model?
DrAbeChoureis.com is my brand. And then at DrAbeChoureis.com.
How do you spell Khoureis?
Khoureis.
Okay.
All of this. I want to mention a few things that comes out of compassionate leadership. We don't advise to compete. We say collaborate. Collaboration, diversity, real diversity. We remove, when you employ compassionate leadership, you remove the illusion of inclusion. You put real inclusion, engagement, understanding, improving performance, which we talked about, customer satisfaction, no stress, no anxiety, social responsibility. Those are some of the things that the benefits out of compassionate leadership.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Abe. We look forward to checking more out and coming to that symposium on October 8th.
Thank you so much for having me. Continue the good work. I love what you're doing.